I used to work the closing shift at Walmart, 4 p.m. to midnight. It wasn't a bad job, boring most nights. Sure, but it paid better than fast food. And I liked being in electronics where I could zone out with the speakers playing demo loops. This happened last year during winter break. I was home from college, working extra hours to stack up cash before spring semester. My store was in a small town in Ohio, the kind of place where everyone either worked at Walmart, knew someone who did, or wandered in to kill time when everything else was closed. The nights were long and the weirdos came out with the cold. It started with a man I noticed one Wednesday night. He looked like he was in his 40s, plain jeans, dark hoodie, some kind of work boots, and a dull, tired face. I only noticed him because he'd been in my department 3 times in one night. Not buying anything, not asking questions, just lingering. The first time he walked past the phone cases, slowly like he was reading the labels. The second time he stood near the Bluetooth speakers, staring at the shelf but not touching anything. And the third time he stood behind the corner display, pretending to look at discount DVDs, except his eyes were fixed on me. I told myself maybe he was waiting for someone. Maybe he was just awkward. I've seen worse, people come in drunk, stoned, even bloody. This guy wasn't doing anything illegal. Just watching, I kept my distance. But then he came back the next night. And the next. Always alone, always near closing. Always circling my area without buying a single thing. I started doing what we all do when a customer makes us uncomfortable. I called for backup on the radio, pretending I needed someone to check inventory just so I wasn't alone. My friend Miguel, who worked in toys, noticed. "Yo," he said, leaning on my counter one night. "That guy with the hoodie, the one who keeps staring at you. He was in toys earlier too, didn't say a word. Just stood near the Barbie aisle and watched me like I was stealing." I felt sick, it wasn't just me. That night I asked security to walk me to my car after close. They said sure, no problem, but by then the man had already left. Except he hadn't. Not really. I lived 15 minutes away, in a small rental with my mom and younger brother. We lived on the edge of town, past a stretch of empty lots and overgrown trees. No streetlights, no sidewalks. Just cracked pavement and the kind of silence that made you hear your own heartbeat. That night, after the guy had been lurking again, I had Miguel and security walk me out. I didn't see the man anywhere. I got in my car, locked the doors, and drove home like always. But I swear, halfway down that long, dark road near my house, I saw headlights in my rearview mirror. Not close, just far enough to stay in the shadows. Every time I sped up, they did too. When I slowed down, they did too. I turned off into a side street to test them. They didn't follow. I let myself breathe. Maybe I was being paranoid, maybe it wasn't him. But something about those headlights didn't feel right. The next night, I asked my manager if I could switch to mornings. She said they were full. I considered quitting right then and there, but I needed the money. I started parking in a different spot. I asked Miguel to meet me at the end of every shift. I even changed up my driving route each night. I told myself, be smart, be careful, and this'll blow over. But then it escalated. Friday night, busy store, holiday rush. I was scanning a customer's speaker when I saw a figure at the edge of the aisle. Hoodie, jeans, same blank face. Just standing between appliances and auto parts, half hidden behind a clearance shelf. I stared. He didn't move, didn't blink. When I looked again a second later, he was gone. 10 minutes later, I saw him again. Aisle 12, then aisle 17, then walking past the changing rooms. Always just far enough to not be obvious. Always watching. I had Miguel stay near me the entire shift. I didn't care if it looked weird. I didn't even care if I got in trouble. My gut was screaming at me, this guy's not shopping, he's planning something. When I got home that night, something was off. Our mailbox was open. One of the garbage cans was tipped over. And the porch light, which my mom always left on for me, was dead. I checked my surroundings before getting out. Locked the car behind me, went inside fast. My mom was asleep, my brother had headphones on, no one had noticed anything. I went to bed, but sleep never came. Every creak in the house made my stomach twist. I kept checking the window. I even put a kitchen knife under my pillow, which I know sounds dumb. But I felt like something was coming. Saturday night, I didn't want to go in. I almost called out, but then I thought, if I let this guy control my life, he wins. I packed pepper spray in my purse and kept my phone on me at all times. I even shared my location with Miguel and texted my mom the second I clocked out. The shift was uneventful at first, no sign of him for most of the night. Until 11:20 p.m. I was restocking portable chargers behind the glass case when I saw movement reflected in the shiny panel, someone behind me, watching. I turned, no one. But a second later, the store's intercom crackled. Security to electronics, possible theft, aisle 10. That was my aisle. I looked around, nothing seemed off. Then I walked up to aisle 10 and found a torn open package of earbuds on the floor. The security tag was missing. That's when I noticed something else. Behind the shelf at the far end of the aisle, one of the employee-only doors was cracked open. A tiny sliver, just enough for someone to peek through. That door led to the back hallways, the ones only employees should access for breaks. Inventory, stockroom stuff, no customers ever went back there. I radioed it in and security went to check. They didn't find anyone. But when I walked past the break room later, I swear I heard someone breathing inside. Not talking, not snoring, just breathing. Low, shaky, like they were trying to stay quiet. I didn't go in. I told myself maybe it was another worker. Maybe someone taking a nap on break. But when I checked the shift log, no one was listed for break at that time. No one had clocked out, and when I asked around, no one admitted to being in there. I was shaking by the time I got to my car that night. Miguel had left early, and the security guard was busy handling a loud drunk near the registers. So I walked out alone, gripping my pepper spray like my life depended on it. And just as I unlocked my car, I heard it. Footsteps. Not fast, not running. Just steady, heavy, getting closer. I turned fast, ready to spray, ready to scream. But there was no one. Just the shadows and rows of parked cars. I drove home with my high beams on the entire way. Every light felt like it was flickering. Every car behind me felt like a trap. My chest hurt the whole ride. That night I couldn't sleep again. Around 3 a.m. I finally gave up and went to the kitchen to get water. That's when I noticed something out the window. A car, parked across the street, no lights, just sitting there. I peeked through the blinds, heart pounding. I couldn't see the driver, but I could feel the stare. That's when I knew. He followed me home. I didn't call the cops right away. Why? Because I wasn't sure they'd believe me. There was no crime yet, just a car sitting outside. In my town, cops didn't move unless something was already on fire. So I watched from behind the blinds. For 10 straight minutes, the car didn't move. No headlights, no engine sounds. Nothing, just idling in the dark. I tried to take a picture, but it was too far and too dark. I texted Miguel and said, I think that guy followed me. He's outside. Miguel called immediately. Do not go outside, lock everything, tell your mom. I did. I woke my mom up, told her everything, and she peeked out too. That's creepy as hell, she said. We're calling someone. Right as she picked up her phone to call the sheriff. The car drove off. No headlights, no rush, just slow. Steady movement back down the road, disappearing into the cold. I didn't sleep that night. Next morning, I called out of work. I couldn't do it anymore. I told my manager the truth about the man. About the car, about everything. She sounded scared for me, said I should take the week off, no pushback at all. Then Miguel texted me. You need to see this. He sent me a screenshot from a local crime page on Facebook. There was a photo of the same man, hoodie, jeans, same dull face. WNTD4 questioning, ATT abduction, AT grocery store. Happened a few towns over. A girl about my age had noticed a man following her in the parking lot of a Target. She got to her car just in time. He ran off before police arrived, but they got his face on camera. It was him. I went to the police with everything I had, dates, descriptions, even the FB screenshot. They took it seriously, said he was being looked for across 3 counties. Apparently, he'd been showing up at random stores, tracking women during night shifts and following them home. No one had been hurt, not yet, but it was close. Security at our store reviewed footage. Confirmed he'd been inside at least 6 nights in a row. Never bought anything, never spoke. Just walked, stared, disappeared. They turned the footage over to police. I never saw him again. A week later, they found the car abandoned at a bus stop 2 towns over. No prints, no ID, just a hoodie and a burner phone with the battery removed. But inside the glove box, they found a notebook. It had names. Mine was one of them. I quit Walmart the next day. I don't work night shifts anymore. I don't shop alone after dark. I check my mirrors constantly. My blinds stay closed, and I always park under a light. Because I learned something most people don't realize until it's too late. The scariest part of Walmart isn't the ghosts. It's the people who never blink, never talk, and never stop watching. I was 2 months into my overnight stocking job at Walmart when things started getting weird. I worked from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., mostly in the grocery section. We had a crew of about 7 people at night, most of them quiet, tired and just there for the paycheck. Everyone kept to themselves, did their aisle. Clocked out, the only social part of the shift was our 2 a.m. break in the staff room. The staff room was tucked behind the storage cages, down a hallway you'd never notice unless you were already an employee. It had peeling beige walls, a microwave that smelled like burnt popcorn, and a few dented lockers. It wasn't cozy, but it was ours. That's where I first saw him. It was a Thursday night. I came in early from the floor because I felt dizzy, probably from skipping dinner. I walked into the staff room and saw someone sitting at the table already. Hoodie up, head down, couldn't see their face. I figured it was someone from the maintenance crew. They sometimes kept to themselves. I nodded, mumbled, "Hey," and sat on the far side of the room. The guy didn't say anything, didn't even move. Just sat there with a soda in front of him, unopened. After a few minutes, I realized something strange. I didn't recognize him. I knew everyone on our night shift. We weren't a big crew. I could name every person who clocked in at night. But this guy, he wasn't one of us. I squinted at his badge, but it was turned backward. Clipped to his jacket, his face was still hidden under the hood, like he didn't want me to see it. Something felt off. I was about to ask him, "What department are you in?" But before I could say anything, he stood up, turned his back and walked out the door. No sound, no footsteps, just gone. When the rest of the crew came in 10 minutes later, I asked, "Hey, who was that guy that just left?" Everyone looked at me weird. "Who?" "The dude in here, hoodie, sitting at the table." "No one's been in here," said Latoya. "One of the night lights, it's been empty." I told them what I saw. They brushed it off. Maybe someone from day shift stayed late. One said, another joked, "Or you finally hallucinated from sleep deprivation." I laughed it off too, but it bugged me. Because when I checked the soda can he left behind, it was warm, and it was already open. The next night I came in early again, not on purpose. Just ended up finishing the first aisle faster than usual. I hesitated before opening the staff room door. Empty. I sat down, told myself I was being dramatic. Maybe the guy from last night was just new. Maybe from another location helping out. Still, something about the way he moved, or didn't move, had stuck with me all day. But I let it go, until it happened again. Saturday night. This time Miguel, a quiet guy from Derry, went to the staff room first. 5 minutes later he came back pale and weirded out. "You see someone sitting in there?" he asked me. My blood chilled. Why? I walked in and some guy had his head down on the table. Looked like he was asleep. I asked if he was okay. But he didn't answer. Then I blinked and he was gone. Like I didn't even hear him leave. We both rushed back to check the room. Empty. No sign of anyone. Just one thing left behind, a receipt. crumbled up, dated 2 days earlier. From our store, but here's the weird part. It wasn't a customer receipt. It was a voided transaction, the kind only cashiers print when canceling a sale, and the cashier's name, T. Ramos. We didn't have a T. Ramos. I checked the employee schedule for that week. No one with that name on any shift. I even asked the front-end manager. She said that name sounds familiar. Didn't we have someone by that name like years ago? That's when I started digging. That weekend I looked up the store's history, not much online. But I did find an old Reddit post from someone claiming a guy named Tony Ramos used to work the overnight shift back in 2018. According to the post, he quit suddenly after being found asleep in the staff room by a manager. But then someone else replied to the post. They said Tony didn't quit. He had a seizure during his shift, collapsed in the back hallway, and died before paramedics arrived. In 2018, right outside the staff room, I stared at the post for what felt like hours. It couldn't be real. There had to be some mix-up. But then why had two people, myself and Miguel, seen someone in that exact room? At the exact same time of night, acting not quite human. Was it really a ghost? Or was it someone else using that room, someone who didn't belong? I didn't sleep well after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that slumped figure at the break table. The way he didn't react, the soda-can left behind. The crumpled receipt with the name of someone who shouldn't exist anymore. When I came in for my next shift, I told myself I wouldn't go near the staff room. I'd take my break outside, even in the freezing cold. But fate had other plans. Around 1:50 a.m., Latoya came over to me and said, "Hey, can you check the break room microwave? It's sparking again." I groaned but nodded. I walked through the stockroom and down the narrow hallway toward the staff room. The lights in that hall always flickered, like they couldn't decide whether to stay on or not. When I reached the staff room door, I heard something. Whispering, not like two people talking, more like one person whispering to himself. Fast and low, almost chanting. I pressed my ear against the door. He said I didn't clock out, he said I didn't clock out. Over and over. My chest tightened. I swung the door open fast, ready to confront whoever was in there. But again, the room was empty. Except for the locker door. One of them, locker 17, was swinging slightly open. Like someone had just closed it and didn't latch it fully. I stepped closer. Inside was a Walmart vest. Wrinkled, dusty, and stitched across the chest was a name tag. T. Ramos. I backed out of the room and called Latoya over. When she saw the vest, she blinked. "Where'd you get that?" "It was in the locker," I said. She slowly nodded, then said, "I remember that guy. He used to work freight, always showed up early. Real quiet, I thought he moved. But now that I think about it," she trailed off. "What? I was the one who found him." She looked pale. He didn't just collapse, he was found in that break room, slumped over the table. Face down, just like you said. I swallowed hard. So no one emptied his locker. She shook her head, it was cleaned out. I know it was, we had HR come in and do it. They even took the nameplate off. We both stared at the locker. The vest, the tag, it wasn't dusty from years. It was dusty from storage. Which meant someone had put it back recently. The next few nights were tense. Everyone on the shift had heard the story by then, some laughed it off. Some got nervous, but nobody wanted to be the first one in the staff room anymore. We started taking breaks in pairs. We kept the lights on in the hallway. And locker 17, someone taped a paper over it that said "Do not open" in Sharpie. But the weirdest thing, things kept appearing in that locker. Sunday night, a pair of work gloves with initials TR written on the cuff. Monday, an empty water bottle from 2018, with the old Walmart logo on the label. Tuesday, a clock and slip with the timestamp 2:03 a.m. Printed 2 minutes after the store's time clock shut off. Each item was older than our current system. Each item was something only employees used. And each time it was placed perfectly inside that locker, like someone was still using it. The final straw came a week later. I was working the frozen section and realized I left my gloves in the staff room. Latoya was in the middle of something, and Miguel was dealing with a spill in produce, so I decided to go alone. The hallway was darker than usual. One of the motion lights was dead. When I reached the staff room door, I felt that cold heaviness, like walking into a room that remembers something bad. Still, I opened it. Empty. I stepped in, grabbed my gloves off the chair, and that's when I noticed something on the table. A sticky note, written in shaky block letters. Did I clock out this time? I dropped the gloves and backed out. When I turned the hallway corner, I swear on everything, I saw someone at the far end, near the fire exit. Just standing there. Walmart vest, hoodie, head down. I froze, blinked. Gone. Security checked cameras again that night. Just like the other times, nothing. They showed me the feed. I walked in. Stood still for a few seconds, then rushed out. No one else. No note on the table. No figure in the hall. But when I returned to the room with the manager 5 minutes later, the sticky note was still there. I quit that Friday. Not because I was scared, though I was, but because I realized something far worse. What if it wasn't a ghost? What if someone had been hiding in the store, living in the back rooms, using old badges? Old uniforms, creeping into staff areas at night, pretending to be part of the team. And what if no one noticed because we just assumed he was one of us? To this day, I check the employee break room wherever I work, even in my new job. Especially during night shifts. Because now I know something most people don't. Sometimes the people you see in the break room after hours aren't your coworkers. I worked at Walmart for 3 years, backroom inventory. The kind of job where you stack boxes, print stickers, and try not to get crushed by pallets. I liked it better than being on the floor. No customers, no screaming babies. Just silence, concrete walls, and caffeine. In the back room was a locked-off section we called the Old Cage, a fenced area full of expired or broken merchandise. It hadn't been touched in years, but we had to clean it once in a while for compliance. I always hated the cage. It was colder than the rest of the room. Damp, smelled like mildew and dust. Something about it just felt wrong. It had a silence that felt too deep, like it swallowed sound. One night, my manager told me and another guy, Brandon, to clean it out for an upcoming inspection. We got the keys and were told to toss what was junk and re-inventory the salvageable stuff. We started that night. It was worse than expected. Busted shelves, old holiday decor, rotting boxes, broken electronics. Brandon joked about a mangled teddy bear looking cursed. I snapped some photos for proof of our cleanup. That's when we found it. Hidden behind stacked pallets in a broken fridge was a small, rusted metal door. No sign, no label, no handle on the outside, just a keyhole. Around the edges was something that looked like dried glue or sealant. It wasn't on any blueprints we'd seen. Brandon knocked on it, secret passage. We laughed it off, figured it was an old maintenance hatch. We didn't touch it. But when we came in the next night, the door was open. It was cracked, just enough to see into the darkness behind it. Brandon backed up like it was radioactive. You unlocked it. No, I said, I didn't touch it. He turned on his phone flashlight and slowly pushed it open. Behind it was a narrow hallway, tight. Cement walls, exposed piping overhead. No lights, no signs, no cameras. It stretched down 30 feet before turning sharply left. We stepped in cautiously, heartbeats loud in the silence. Along the walls were rusted shelving units. Most were empty, a few held dusty paint cans or collapsed boxes. At the corner, we saw something that made us freeze. A pile of employee lanyards. 6 or 7 of them, all tangled together. Names faded, photos barely visible. Brandon picked one up. Rachel Mendoza, inventory, night shift. The name hit me hard. Dude, wasn't she that girl who went missing? I Googled her name. There it was, the same face, same store. Rachel Mendoza, 23, vanished in 2021 after clocking out from our Walmart. Her car was left in the parking lot, never seen again. Brandon wanted to keep going, I didn't, but I followed. The hallway ended in what looked like a utility closet. But when we opened the door, we found something much worse. A small room. No windows, cement walls, a thin mattress on the floor. Dirty blanket, pile of empty water bottles in the corner. Above the mattress, taped to the wall, was a photo. A screenshot from our old security footage. It showed the back room and someone standing in the shadows, watching a girl, Rachel, walk past the cage. That's when I knew someone had been living in there, watching employees. We panicked, locked the rusted door, and shoved the broken fridge back in front of it. We didn't say much, just that we needed to tell someone. Brandon reported it to Victor. Our night manager, we expected him to call the cops. Instead, he stood silent, staring at the ground. When we told him we found Rachel's badge, he looked up slowly and said, "That door was supposed to be sealed." "Sealed?" I asked. He nodded after Rachel disappeared. Corporate bricked up the access on the other side. Didn't want rumors going around, said it wasn't good for PR. "You knew about that hallway," Brandon snapped. "I thought it was sealed, welded shut. I never went near it again." We all had the same sinking thought. If it was sealed, who opened it? We pushed hard to get the police involved. Eventually, a detective and an officer came. We showed them everything, the corridor, the room, the badge, the photo on the wall. They took it seriously, especially when we showed them the small journal we found under the mattress. We hadn't read it yet. The detective flipped through the pages, his face getting paler with each entry. It was a descent into madness, fear, paranoia, isolation. One page stood out. "He tells me I'm safe back here. He says no one will come looking. But I hear them out there. I hear them calling my name." Signed, Rachel M. The detective asked quietly, "How long has this room been sealed?" Victor said at least 2 years. The officer looked around, no food. No bathroom, no exit. Whoever stayed here didn't plan to live long. Then he said something else that chilled us both. "Some of these entries are dated last month." Brandon and I locked eyes. Last month, someone had been down there recently. After that, everything changed. Police taped off the back room. Investigators came daily. They collected the mattress, water bottles, photo, and journal. Eventually, the news broke. DNA matched Rachel Mendoza. She had lived in that room. For a while, maybe months, maybe longer. But she wasn't there anymore. And what really horrified everyone were the things they found afterward. Deep scratch marks on the inside of the door. Fingernails lodged in the rubber seal. Strands of long hair in the corner. And under the mattress, a phone. Not Rachel's phone, a burner, no SIM card. No contacts, just one saved photo. A picture of Rachel, asleep on the mattress, taken from just a few feet away. Dated 3 weeks before we found the room. Who took that photo? No one ever figured it out. Some said maybe a night shift employee. Maybe an ex-worker with keys. Or someone who never left the building at all. Some older employees said they used to hear breathing at night. Crying, shuffling noises when no one else was around. They always brushed it off. Now they weren't so sure. 2 weeks later, Walmart demolished the entire cage section. Corporate claimed renovations, but everyone knew the truth. They didn't want employees asking questions. Victor quit. Brandon transferred. I left, but I still think about it. The hallway, the scratches, the photo, and that final thing, the thing we never told anyone, not even the police. In that room for just a second, both Brandon and I thought we saw someone. At the far end of the hallway, a shadow, still watching,